There are times when you're creating a model and you need a high degree of precision and you would like objects to align perfectly one to another. So in order to achieve that kind of modeling, there are a few different options that Modo has that involve snapping. So we're going to look first at just some general snapping tools and then some other precision snapping tools that are located inside of the basic modeling menu. We won't be covering all of the snapping functionality because there is a lot of depth there, but we'll be looking at the basic tools that will allow you to get just enough to get your objects aligned and snap together, and then you can easily go on and explore some of the other tools that are available in snapping. So there is a snapping button here at the very top of the windows that you just click to enable snapping. All right, so that turns on the snapping functionality, and with that done, you can then go in and actually start working with snapping more specifically by going to the snapping menu, which will show up right here. It's also available with the F11 hotkey, and you can see that here we have a bunch of different things that we can use in our snapping functionality. We can snap to grid, to vertices for existing meshes, edges, edge centers, so the point in between two vertices on an edge, poly center. You get the idea. There's a bunch of stuff that we can do here. Now, the next section down here has to do with how much screen space is allocated to the actual snapping functionality. So inner range 24 pixels, outer range 40 pixels. That's just how much space or how many distance in on-screen pixels you can be away from an item before the snapping will be engaged. Now, you also have coordinates. So you can set up, the default here is to have fine coordinates. So basically it doesn't try to do much in the way of snapping by default, but what you can do is you can take this and set it to normal, to none, or you can do it to fixed or forced fixed, which will allow you to not have any room in between, which will basically ignore these pixel values up above. But this will allow you to create nice solid increments as you create models. So I'm going to take my fixed increment and just set it to 1 meter. And you'll see that it actually changes my grid in the background. So now my grid is set to a 1 meter grid, and that's all of the grid that I'm going to get. It won't dynamically resize as I zoom in and out, but this can be very useful as you're laying out different things. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and grab the cube tool here, and I'm just going to start by clicking and dragging in the viewport, and you can see that instead of getting this granular control where I'm getting different sizes of squares, it's snapping right to the grid, and that grid is a 1 meter grid. So now I could take this and pretty easily continue to model. Let's just use the edge extend tool. So I'm just going to select this edge and click Z, and I can click and drag, and you can see that I can get exact increments. And let's shift click to engage it again. So if you need to do something where you need this kind of simple precision, and you don't want to have to go in and watch your offsets here as you do this, then this is a very nice way of setting this up. And you can always set these dynamically as you go. I set mine to 1 meter, but we can very easily go in and change that to anything, down to millimeters or smaller, and up to kilometers if you'd like to snap large portions of objects. All right, so that's your basic snapping functionality, and this can be very useful as you're creating models, especially if you're doing some things, maybe with architectural visualization or something where you have real precise coordinates. You can use this to very easily kind of dial those in without having to just kind of ride the values manually. And so, for example, if I turn snapping off, and then let's also press F11, and I'm going to turn my grid coordinate system back to fine. Now, if I try to do this and I want to get to 1 meter, yeah, it's not super difficult, but I have to keep an eye on this 1 meter grid. And if I happen to be zoomed out farther, sometimes it's very hard to dial in exactly on that value. So this will save you a lot of time with that kind of functionality. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hide this mesh item here. And I have 2 additional mesh items. I'm just going to shift click on both of those so they're both active. And I have basically 2 versions of a cube, a regular cube and a cube with one edge pulled out of place. So this will allow us to see how we can actually use our snapping functionality to both align things spatially and with their orientation, as how they rotate. So let's start here just by I'm going to drop my tools and clear out my tool pipe. So I pressed escape a couple of times just to make sure everything's empty. I'm going to go to polygons and just double click on this cube here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I want to be able to snap this cube, this bottom corner here, to this top edge, or this kind of diagonal edge of the secondary cube. All right, so for that, I'm going to go up to the Snaps and Precision pop out here within our basic modeling menu. Now, if you want to keep this around, you can always click this little circle here, and that will allow you to just drag and keep this anywhere you want, and it won't disappear until you click on the same little circle to get rid of it. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is the drag snap rigid. So what that will do is it will use a drag snap functionality. So as you drag, it will snap to things. Pretty self-explanatory. But the rigid denotes that it will keep the form of your object. So it's not going to try to deform the object and just drag one piece, but rather what it's going to do is it's going to drag the entire selected item, and then it will snap it based off of what we select here. So I'm going to select, and I'm going to use vertex to vertex snapping. You get more precision than you do if you're going to try to snap to edges, where sometimes you'll snap to the center of an edge, and sometimes you'll snap to a corner, so a vertex. So I'm going to use vertex to vertex snapping, and what I'll do is I'll snap this vertex right here, the lower right-hand corner, just by clicking on it, and I want to drag and snap this up to this corner right here. So if I click and drag, as soon as I get within that pixel radius, you can see that it has actually snapped itself right to that corner. All right, so we've got this this cube in place, and everything works pretty well. So I'm going to undo that really quickly and just select this edge here, so you can see the difference in functionality. So now if I drag this up and I get up to this edge, you see it has a hard time grabbing onto it until it gets here. But then it's snapping, but it's snapping to the vertex. It's snapping this full edge to that vertex. So that's not exactly what I want here. So again, I'm going to go back to the vertex and then just click and drag up. And you can see I can snap it here, or based on screen space, I can snap it in that corner. I could snap it down here in this bottom corner, and basically any individual vertex that I can currently see, regardless of its depth location, only based on its screen location, I can snap this to those pieces very easily and end up with a nicely aligned piece of geometry. All right, so that's a great way to do spatial snapping. The other thing that we're going to look at here is the planar rotate snap axis. So this is a rotational snapping. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that tool on. You'll see that we get this kind of interesting set of handles. So just so you know what's going on here, we have the first circle here, the gray circle, will tell you the direction of the rotation. All right. The box out here at the end will be what we snap to the goal, so where we want to rotate to in alignment. In this case, we're going to use this edge right up here. Then we can control the actual rotation with this handle here, and we can control our start point with this one here. So what I'm going to do first is just click on this corner right here, and you can see that the tool handles align to the corner of this box. All right, and now I'm going to get this handle here, and now what I want to do is actually snap this to existing geometry. So for that, I've got my snapping on. I'm going to press F11 to bring up my snapping functionality, and I'm going to turn on Edge Snap here, and now, as I click and drag this, you can see that it's going to highlight when it reaches that edge, and it will snap to it. It'll also work with other edges, but it wouldn't make too much sense to rotate based on this edge over here. So I'm just going to snap it to this one because I want to align this so that it's flat and flush with this top section here. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this handle right here, and I'm going to align that to where I want to start dragging from. So let's go ahead and just click and drag this until we get to this edge right here, which is my vertical edge. And now you can see that my my tool handle is now up here, and so as I click and drag, you'll see that it snaps itself down, and I'm now oriented that piece directly to the upward sloping edge. Now I could do this the other way around here, and let's take and grab this guy, and I'm going to pull it down here. And now you can see that I have my edge snapped down to this lower edge. So I could do the same thing though, just rotate and snap, except in this case it's going to snap the other way around. And now I just need to set up which edge I want to align to this edge down here. In this case I want this lower edge. So I'm going to grab this little X again, drag it until it snaps on this edge right here, and now I use my rotate to snap that down to that piece right there. Okay, so one last thing that we'll look at before moving on here, and this can be a very useful one for fine-tuning your geometry as you work it in aligning the separate pieces, and that is going to be the drag snap. So we looked at drag snap rigid for dragging entire objects. This is the drag snap for just individual pieces. You can use it on vertices, edges, or polygons, though usually with this kind of fine-tuned work, you're going to be using it on vertices. So let's go ahead and turn on drag snap, and just so you can see what's going on, I'm going to go over to the lists here and look at the tool pipe, and you can see that we have a geometry snap enabled. We have the action center and the action center axis both set. We have an element fall off and a transform tool. So it's dropped all of those things into our tool pipe just by turning on that drag snap. And now what I can do is I can more easily align one piece to another. So what I want to do is I want to take this bottom section here. I want to take this vertex and align it to that vertex. And the same thing in this back corner, this one to that one. So all I have to do is mouse over my my initial vertex and then click and drag and it will snap. I can do the same thing in the back here, click and drag. You might want to make sure that you have a good view of it because this is going to be viewport dependent. Remember, this is based off of pixels in view space. So there you go. So there I've pretty easily snapped those two pieces together. And even though they're in separate layers, I've taken them and aligned them perfectly. I've got this edge here oriented just right. And I've also snapped the bottom pieces together so that everything is all nice and aligned. So using the snapping functionality will allow you to get more precision and better fine tuning of a lot of your polygonal geometry. This is very useful for a lot of precision modeling, but also can be used just when you need to align pieces one to another as your modeling workflow progresses. That does it for this one. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lesson.